I do what I
They were
do.
waiting for a sign, they were waiting for a leader, waiting for a moment to rise. And to this day, Nat Turner remains one of the most controversial figures in America history. You see, he's a prophet to some, he's a terrorist to others. But what can't be denied is his rebellion shattered the myth of passive bondage. You see, it was a war cry. It was a signal that even the deepest pits of oppression, black resistance burns hot. You understand me? Now, I want to talk about one I find to be very peculiar. It's the story of the Creole Rebellion. Okay? The Creole Rebellion. It's never taught in school. Never been the heart of an action mirror, but it has the weight of a Shakespearean tragedy. So here's the situation. It's 1841. The place is a ship called the Creole. And the man who led it was a man named Madison Washington. Now, Madison Washington, he wasn't an ordinary man. He had already escaped slavery once and made it all the way to Canada. But like a scene from Django Unchained, he returned to Virginia, risking everything to rescue his wife, who was still enslaved. Some versions say he found her aboard the Creole, but there's no proof of that. What we do know is that he returned, he was captured, sold again, and placed aboard the U.S. Brig of the Creole. And it was headed for Richmond, Virginia to New Orleans with 135 black people in the hold. And so the ship left port at 1825 at about 1841. And remember, they would send folk down to New Orleans to put them on the slave ship. I mean, put them on a slave to sell them at the slave auction. You see, if you go down to golly, what is that place by Cafe Du Monde? There's a slave auction down there. You'll pass right by, you wouldn't even know it's there. But nevertheless, so they were sending them down there because remember, the slaves would go down there and they'll sell them, and people would go take them wherever you want to take them, Mississippi, Alabama, up in Louisiana, Missouri, wherever. Okay, but the ship left port on October 25th, 1841. 12 days later, on November 7th, that's when the revolt started. Okay, it was a revolt began with a man named Elijah Morris, who was one of the enslaved men. He approached the ship's first mate. The man name was Zephaniah Gifford, and he said, "Hey, boss, the slave overseer." He said, "Look," he told, "Look, the men are down there messing with them women in the quarters, the black women, right? The black men who were enslaved. They down there messing." And of course, the slave, they don't want nobody messing with the black women, but the white dude. So anyway, they kept the slaves separate. And so he had to go check on that. And so when they opened up the hatch to see what's going on down there, Madison Washington and about and over a dozen black men burst out. They launched into an uprising. They overpowered the crew. The man name was John R. Hewell, the man in charge of the group. Okay, included Washington was unalived. They were stabbed to death. Several crew members, including Captain Robert Isnor, that he was wounded. But here's what the critical part. After seizing control, Washington and the others, they spared the rest of the crew. They including the captain's wife and daughter and his niece. You see, there was no massacre. See, one thing you see in common: black people they're not trying to get these folk back, other than Nat Turner. Okay, but for the most part, what they're just trying to do is fight for their freedom. We're not into massacring people. We're not like that. We don't want blood just for blood. Okay, but this is an interesting story because the question now was, where do we go? We got this ship. Liberia was mentioned. Okay. But remember, you don't have a ship that maybe can travel to Africa. You don't have the supplies for that. But what they end up doing is they said that we don't have the supplies to go to Africa. So a gentleman named Ben the blacksmith, okay, who was also one of the people who fought for his freedom, who had unalived somebody, he said, well, let's go down to the British West Indies. Why? Because the British had abolished slavery just a year before. The British abolished slavery before America did. And so, there was a story where an American slave ship named the Hermosa had wrecked in the Bahamas, and all 38 of the people, black people, as soon as they touched that land, they were deemed free. They were set free. So they set course for Nassau, which is in the Bahamas. And on November 9th, they got there. Once they arrived, There was a black harbor pilot that boarded the ship and informed everybody on the board, you are free. Can you imagine that? You free. As soon as you hit this land. And the British would not, the British didn't recognize American laws, but of course, America wasn't going to just accept that easily. So there was a person named Zephaniah Gifford. He was still loyal to the U.S. He notified the American consul in Nassau, and they tried to round up the group of American sailors in the Bahamas. Hey, come on in here. We need to help y'all retake this ship. Come help us retake this ship. But before they could, a contingent of Bahamian soldiers led by a white British officer, he intervened. He boarded the Creole, not to capture the freedmen, but to prevent any violence or escape. And when the American soldiers arrived to retake the ship, the Bahamians met them at the dock, armed, and told them to stand down. They held them at gunpoint. You better sit down. You see, and ultimately Madison Washington and the 18 men who were detained for that short period of time, okay, they became free and they got off the boat. The sad part of this is, unfortunately, 3 women and 2 children, 5 people in total, they were afraid. They didn't want to get off the boat. And so the boat turned around and took them back to the United States. And as soon as they got back there, they were slaves again. Somebody should have got them off that boat. Somebody should have said, no, you're going to get off that boat. But they decided to stay on the boat and they went back to slavery. But again, you see, I was telling you guys earlier, there are people who were in the United States, or what we call the United States now, who are scattered about the Caribbean. They have foundational Black American roots. So it's a real jumbled up story, and that's why we have to talk about this in the context of how you identify culturally. But nevertheless, on April 16, 1842, some time later, the British authorities, they freed 17 of the 19 men who had led the revolt, and 2 had already died in custody, and that made a total of about 128 people. 100 free. That was the Black people freed about by this was 128, and 128 people free. Not by paperwork, not by negotiation, not by abolitionists and petitions, but by bravery and tactical genius of this one man named Madison Washington. And there's no other recorded slave rebellion in American history with a higher number of successful liberations. Okay? So again, remember, even in chains, we found a way to be free. All right, now I'm gonna tell you something. Everybody always talks about Black people, especially when you talk to them. They talk about how they got a little Cherokee in them. Somebody type Cherokee, Apache. Y'all got a little Apache in you, huh? Did you all know that the Native Americans had their own slaves, and invariably they had rebellions too? Did y'all know that? Well, I'm gonna tell you about one. Okay, let me know. You guys still with me? Hit the number 1 button if you will. Still with me? Let me know. This was the fall of 1842, deep in Indian territory. This is modern day Oklahoma, just a couple of hours north of where I am. Okay. This rebellion unfolded within the Cherokee Nation, because the Cherokee, the 5 civilized tribes, they had slaves too. They had Black slaves. Okay. The Cherokee people had adopted many of the practices of the American South. In fact, they fought on the side of the Confederacy against the North to hold on to their slaves. And it wasn't just 1 or 2. They had hundreds of Black men, women, and children that they held in bondage by the native elites, who had themselves been forcibly removed from their ancestral lands during the Trail of Tears just a few years ago. So imagine this. We always talk about the Trail of Tears, but you know who they forced to come with them? The hundreds of Black men, women, and children that they held in bondage. So before you start feeling all sorry for the Native Americans, understand that they themselves were your oppressor. What's up? Welcome to the broadcast. This is Uncle D. People wash their ass in the tub, Kamala Harris.
You would tune in to Uncle D. This black man talk, pull up homie, take a seat. Don't be a shadow watcher every day. You learn something, then you earn something. Let them know and drop some money in the plate. It's getting cold, ladies, talking ratchet. There's a king here, grab your coat, zip your jacket. Keep quiet for a second, close your jaw. Attorney Spurling, this ain't pearly, know the law. Talking Constitution, pushing pins when he shootin', give him that. Masculinity, just for the record, sprinkle that. You can keep your cat, gotta cut it. Only cat he rubbin', gotta love it. I call it Molly Buddy. Gotta vote your interest, voting earns. Presidential, this is for the money that I earn. When you gon' learn, my people, that evil mixed with evil. No matter what you're doing, baby, this ain't equal. Sometimes when you're special, you get hated. The test is for the best, you're damn right, my people made it. Uncle D, Blizzard King, you been served, gotta notice. Now black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you been served, get your notice. Now black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you been served, get your notice. Now black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you been served, get your notice. Now black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now.
Hey man, I'll do what I do.
Somebody need to whip your ass.
Get up and whip him, Sweets.
Hey, don't be putting the money in my hand all rough.
Take your ass out here. You buy you a Floby and cut your own damn hair from now on.